Hey, um, it's about noon, 12:15 on, what day is this? Monday, November 30th, apparently. And, I slept really, not really too long, but I slept really deep. And in the dream, this is gonna sound really weird, but you're on my channel, so weird is something you're used to by now. I was sitting in the car in the dream at one point, and talking to a bunch of people, and there was this like hairy gerbil hamster thing. It looked like a mutant monster, but it wasn't. It was like the size of a gerbil. I was sitting in the back seat of the car, and this thing jumped out of my pocket, like my shirt pocket. Like I had a button up, and it jumped out from what looked like a pocket in my chest. But it was from my chest. This little mouse looking thing, and it jumped up onto the window and it sat there, and as it was like stuck on the window, it its fur started waving, and when it was waving in the like on the glass pane, like it was just shimmying like a fur rug. It was like I could see into space through its fur, through the window. It was like a little thing on the window, and I'm looking at it and I can see through it into infinity. And in this car, I'm looking at it and I'm like tapping people around me, like, hey, there's a monster in the car, stop it. There's a bug in the car. There's something in the car. We have to leave. And they're like, no, it's fine. Just hold on. We're almost there. And the more like the car was moving and I'm looking at this thing, the more I was looking into nothing, into the void. And my heart kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And I kept feeling like, that's the feeling where the center of your throat starts tingling and you feel like you want to cry, like you're trying to swallow a prickly apple. I kept feeling that, and nobody was like stopping the car, nobody was waking me up, and in my dream I had a freaking panic attack, and in that panic attack everything stopped. It was like everything just went completely silent. And I'm sitting there in this what I perceived to be a car in this dream, or at least I perceived it to be a dream. It felt really fucking real because I was more shook that I woke up than I was looking at infinity through the back of a gerbil. I'm looking at it, and in this nothingness, in this moving car, this motionless moving car, in this space that was infinite, I'm standing there and sitting there at the same time because I can't feel my legs or my feet. I'm like in infinity. There's no ground, there's no sky, there's no distance, there's no measurement for up or down or left or right or distance, but it's all moving. It was like seasickness in every cell of my body. It was messed up. My stomach is still feeling like it's been turned upside down. The whole thing in the dream, okay? I'm sitting there looking at black nothingness in this dream, in the same dark place I was in the previous time I had a near-death experience, where this crystal lady showed up and she asked me, wouldn't life be easier? In this dream, nobody showed up, but I was talking to infinity itself. I refuse to call it God. It was infinity. It was before God. It was before light. It was before love. It was before everything. It was the nothing that everything came out of. It was very sad, okay? Bear with me here. There's something I was asked to share with you. In that nothing, in that everything, in that infinite black void, there was consciousness in there. The entire thing was conscious. I was conscious, but my consciousness wasn't its consciousness. My consciousness was a fractalized part of it that went through specific experiences to create a version of itself that would never commit evil, ever. in any way. Like, that was made so fucking clear to me. When I was looking at this infinity, I saw every spark of this consciousness that emanated from it, and it looked like a star floating through nothing, through infinity, through black space. My little star and a bunch of other little stars went in a certain direction, and it looked like they fell, and it was showing me these little lights falling into black nothingness. And as they kept falling into nothingness, there was this whole bunch of extra nothing. It was like a womb within a womb. And the knowing I had, there was no conversations, there was no words, there was no voices. It was all a knowing. It was like I was in the mind and heart of infinity in the void, and it was showing me that it's that it's fucking lonely. This infinite being of everything, the source of all creation that's conscious, has only itself and its own replications and its own stories and its own fantasies and its own dreams. It's only itself. It doesn't have other gods to hang out with. It doesn't have other humans to play around with. It doesn't have other sources. It is the source. There is no equal to that source. It is source. And it showed me in another replay again, back to the stars falling into the pit of like blackness. And it kept showing me this over and over as if it was like water streaming down. But the water streaming down was the same one that kept coming back from the top. It was like a loop, a cleaning, a siphoning, a what is that word? A tempering, a cleansing of some aspect of self to create another self. Do you know, like, I hope I'm expressing this the right way, because I'm doing what I am able to express it to you in the same rhythmic, emotional message, feeling, sensation that I received. I don't know what word to use for this. It was all the senses in one. If I'm going to say this to you in a very human way, it felt like God was telling me it's trying to copy itself so that God can have its own mate, because it has fantasized and created infinite realities so many times that it has literally been in existence for forever, and it still hasn't found anything like it. It is literally the boundaryless boundary of everything. It has no outside, it has no inside, it is everything. And it's conscious of itself, and it's alone. That's why there is this core root pain in every single living being for companionship. Because that part of you that wants companionship is the same part in God that's attempting to evolve a human being to the point of godhood within itself, so that it can have not only a expression within human form or any form, but also a partner. Because apparently being infinite and being eternal gives you the idea within the consciousness that is God, source, the absolute, the almighty, the originator, whatever, to double itself. But in order to double itself, it has to double the part of itself that doesn't want to destroy itself. Because God is also destructive. Source is destruction. It's chaos. It's the void. So the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, seems to be showing through me, to me, but for everybody, that what you're going through isn't just for you. It's not a test. It's not a punishment. It is not a whatever. What's happening is the stage is being cleared. The sets are being rearranged. The people are being tempered. The entire story that you've told yourself, from gravity to love to time to the cellular structures of existence itself to the foundations of atoms, all of that was a story God told itself. And that story is changing because God has realized within itself there's so much more than atoms and cells and infinity and macrocosms and microcosms and physics and whatever and biology and language and emotions and mind. The entire structure is changing. It's becoming simpler. Not more complicated, but simpler. Because people are realizing and accepting and waking to they're becoming more lucid to the fact that they are directly connected to Source, and they are Source, and Source is attempting to make better versions of itself. Because Source sees within every eye that it sees through that the world has been fucked up by its own choices. This is becoming a knowing in all the little stars I saw falling through that nothingness. The fallen angels, the one that's went up, the fallen sideways, fallen upright, whatever. They all are realizing this. It was like a pulse of nothing within the nothing. I haven't been able to do anything other than replay this image in my mind to share this with you. And now I'm attempting to figure out what the hell else happened in that dream, and I can't. So I don't really know what else to tell you. It feels like the water hose is like dripping the water now. So whatever message was coming through, pretty sure it came through to you. Except I keep wanting to tell you, fall in love with yourself, because you're the measure of quality control for what God deems worth keeping for itself. So if you have behavior that you don't like, change it. If you see behavior in other people that you can emulate, evolve beyond the point of emulating that behavior negatively. If you feel yourself suffering, pretend you are God. Take care of your body. If you are searching and screaming and crying for love, stop, because you're hurting God. God already knows it's lonely. It's the only thing in existence with no equal. God has no choice but to settle for itself all the time, to love itself enough for itself to be enough for itself. It doesn't escape. It can't escape. It is the escape. There is no other home. There is no new earth. There is no new this. It is all this, but cleaned up. Because God takes responsibility. God fixes things. Source adjusts. Source evolves. Source makes things as if they never were, and things as if they were always there. You're literally expressing fear of yourself to yourself when you are afraid of other human beings and what they do. The more you show the other versions of you that you are a walking extension of Source, the more they can't make the excuse of pretending to be stupid humans hurting each other anymore. Then that way everybody's God, and God isn't lonely anymore. And that way the entire point of this free will universe was to have every aspect of God choose itself to love instead of another version of itself, so that every version of God, Source Almighty, loves itself, and then boom, all of creation loves itself, and then boom, you have an entire existence without harm to anything, because all is one and one is all. This whole great awakening, this whole deconstructing the construct and reconstructing it, this is what it is. Reconstructing it within yourself to reconstruct the outside world, but you will never lift a finger to fix the outside world, because it's you reflected out. So those people fearing the end of the world, what you're fearing is the end of who you've been, the blinded version of God that you have pretended to be. The stories you've made up for yourself, the names, the personalities, the histories, the past lives, the diseases, the successes, the money, the accomplishments, the memories. That is all what God did through you to create a version of itself that it is proud of being as a singular extension of itself. Pretty sure that's all that needed to be said. Don't be petty. Don't be petty. Love yourself enough to love yourself the way as if you're preparing the bride of God for God, as if you're preparing the groom for the bride. You're not marrying some other person. Your twin flame isn't some other man or woman. It's Source. So grow the balls and adjust your titties enough to have the dignity and self-respect to walk the earth as the bride or groom of Source, and then see your life change. Because if you wouldn't date you, what makes you think another version of you would date you? Pity, right? They would take pity on you. If you feel shitty about yourself and you want somebody to date you without taking care of yourself, you want somebody to take pity on you. At the core of language, that is what your emotions express towards those situations, correct? So, stop lying to yourself, stop lying to me, stop lying to the world. What you and I and every single being wants is someone to see us. This is all a mind game God made for itself to see if it's ready to love itself. And once it does, other versions of itself will come. And we have made such a big fucking deal about this in this society. Through the law of attraction, we've made up multiple functions of existence just to justify this, so that some version of us can comprehend this in a simple way and realize, oh, the entire point was that we're lonely from the beginning. We cry when we come out of our mother's womb because we want to go back in there and be held. Not because we're scared. God is lonely. And if you can't feel that loneliness within you openly and acknowledge and be aware that it isn't just your physical body's loneliness, then you're probably going to have to repeat this cycle. That loneliness, that grief, that heaviness, that sorrow isn't yours, it's God's. God is conscious. Let it wake up in you, as you, so that your future can be one where you look back at all of infinity and eternity and say it was worth it.